I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you. The greatest thing you can do in life is to live to your peak and to set an example that there is a way to live beyond all limitations. We have the honor of having SadhGuru with us today, and these profound words spoken by SadhGuru himself truly set the tone for what is to follow this morning. We would now like to begin this auspicious program with the melodious sounds of Isha.
Yogi, yogi, yugana, yugana ham yogi, ha yogi, 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 yugana, yugana ham yogi, ha yogi. अवधूता युगाना युगाना हम योगी हाँ योगी अवधूता युगाना युगाना हम योगी हाँ योगी 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 युगाना युगाना हम योगी हाँ योगी आवे ना जावे आवे ना जावे मिटे ना कबहू कबहू आवे ना जावे आवे ना जावे मिटे ना कबहू कबहू शब्द अनाहद भोगी अवधूता युगाना युगाना हम योगी हाँ योगी सब ठोर जमात हमरी जमात हमरी सब ही ठोर पर मिला मिला हाँ मिला मिला हम सब माय हम सब माय सब है हम माय हम माय हम है बहुरी अकेला अवधूता युगाना युगान हम योगी हाँ योगी 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 युगाना युगाना हम योगी हाँ योगी कबीरा कहता कबीरा सुनो भाई साथ साधो जी। कहता कबीरा, कहता कबीरा, सुनो भाई साधो जी। कहता कबीरा, सुनो भाई साधो जी, नहीं न कोई इच्छा, इच्छा, हाँ इच्छा, इच्छा, अपनी मढ़ी में, अपनी मढ़ी में आप में डोलूं, खेलूं, खेलूं सहज स्वेच्छा, अवधूता युगाना, युगाना हम योगी, हाँ योगी, 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 युगाना, युगाना हम योगी, हाँ योगी, योगी, हाँ योगी, योगी, हाँ योगी।
As a courtesy to our respectable speaker this morning, I request you to please switch off your mobile phones. We will now show you a short video on the Isha Foundation.
In the next half hour, you're going to meet a man who has a devoted following across India and indeed around the world. While yoga and meditation are at the core of his teachings to promote individual growth, the work of the foundation covers conservation, education and health. And you'll find him astonishingly pragmatic on a range of very modern-day problems. Let's meet SadhGuru.
For the very first time in the history of humanity, we have the necessary resource, we have the necessary capability, we have the necessary technology to address every human problem on the planet. Even 25 years ago, we couldn't have dreamt of it. But the only thing that is missing is consciousness.
An absolutely incomplete person who came in and a very complete being who's going out. Thank you very much.
This is what I want to teach you too. That is, you can be completely intoxicated without any drug, just on life. This is a shift from wine to divine. This is the only godless country on the planet, I want you to know. This is the only place on the planet where we understand that God is our making and we have a whole technology of God making. See, the only thing that I'm really good at is just this. I can just make the air around me just crackle with energy.
If you have to describe yourself in one word,
Would you consider wildlife as 2 words or 1 word?
it's
A very warm welcome to SadhGuru. It is indeed our honor to have you address us today at the Young Ficky Ladies Organization program, Empowering the Feminine, this morning. A yogi and profound mystic of our times, SadhGuru is a visionary humanitarian and a prominent spiritual leader. SadhGuru has been vocal on his thoughts on the feminine. He shares that our lives can only become truly beautiful if the feminine and masculine aspects of life are balanced. He says that it's important that society realizes this and creates the right situation for the blossoming of the feminine. As we know, SadhGuru is also the founder of Isha Foundation, an international not-for-profit organization dedicated to the well-being of the individual and the world for the past 3 decades. Isha Foundation runs large-scale grassroots projects in ecology, health, and education. I would now like to request Ms. Tripti Gupta, Chairperson YFLO, to present SadhGuru with a green certificate. At YFLO, we don't believe in cut flowers. Instead, we plant a tree on your behalf. It is our contribution to the environment in our endeavor to be green. I'd like to now request Mr. Sashen Gupta to please present a check towards YFLO's humble contribution to Isha Vidya. Request Tripti to please give the welcome address.
Namaskaram. Dear esteemed invitees, YFLO and FLO members, and Isha guests, I cannot describe the incredible joy and the unbelievable excitement that has descended on this room today owing to today's keynote speaker. Sadhguru, I feel truly blessed in your august presence here today, and am eternally grateful to you for agreeing to address Young Ficky Ladies Organization, Delhi. Sadhguru, as you all know, is the founder of Isha Foundation and an internationally celebrated author, poet, opinion maker, and a spiritual master with a difference. Insightful and logical, his life and work serve as a reminder that yoga is not an enigmatic discipline from an outdated past, but a contemporary science which is vitally relevant to our times. With speaking engagements that take him around the world, he is widely sought after by prestigious global forums to address issues as diverse as human rights, business values, social and environmental issues. YFLO is proud to contribute to Isha Foundation's cause of educating the girl child under Isha Vidya. We are very humbled by Sadhguru's presence here today and are thrilled to have him enlighten us on the topic of empowering the feminine. There is no one more equipped to demystify this topic, which has so many layers and perspectives, than Sadhguru himself. It is a matter of great honor and a privilege for YFLO, and almost a dream come true for me personally, that he has agreed to be with us today. It truly seems like a manifestation of my theme for the year: dream, believe, and achieve. Please put your hands together as I now invite Sadhguru to enthrall all of us with his immense wisdom and unparalleled wit.
Sakilam Karunam. Good morning everyone. I said good morning. When we utter the word feminine, generally it is misunderstood as female. Why are you keeping them in the dark? It'll be nice if I can see the people. That's good. It's a Diwali time, it's supposed to be a festival of light. All physical manifestation, in the very nature of things, can only happen between polarities. To put it in a very dry terms, it would be positive, negative. If we have to express this in terms of nature, we say masculine, feminine. If we have to refer to this with a little more reverence, we call it Shiva Shakti. But essentially, we are talking about the nature of physical existence, that it can only happen between polarities. Now, the moment we divide, the compulsiveness of wanting to judge which is superior, which is inferior, enters a certain level of mind. What is superior, what is inferior? Good and evil, God and devil, man and woman, masculine and feminine. Now, the crassness of logical mind tries to judge which is superior, which is inferior. From this, many layers of confusion, many dimensions of ugliness, many unfortunate manifestations of exploitation have happened and continue to happen. Turning it around is not the answer, but coming to a deeper understanding, coming to a deeper experience of life, where if you know life simply the way it is, you would know the life of a worm is as significant as yours. Hello? Is that okay? Because but today, environmental scientists tell us the life of a worm is far more important than yours. Because insects and worms, for example, if all the insects on the planet disappear right now, they say in approximately 4.5 to 6 years' time, all life on this planet will end. Insects. You don't like them, the ladies. If all the worms disappear right now, the life on this planet will end in about 1.5 to 2 years' time. If you and me disappear, the planet will flourish. So environmental scientists are trying to argue that worms and insects and microbial life is far more important than you and me. You don't have to agree with them. But if you disagree with them, you will cease to exist. So similarly, the masculine and feminine need not agree with each other. If they agree, they will lose their qualities. But if they disagree, then there will be an eruption. What is being female and male is just a manifestation of either masculine or feminine being dominant. But essentially, nothing here is made without polarities. Because our education systems have moved from exploration of truth to imposition of facts upon our lives, where education system has become a heap of information being thrown at us all the time. Because of this, we have become a very factual generation. We want everything to be factually correct. Is it a fact that you're sitting here right now either as a man or a woman? Hello? Or is there somebody who's not made up their minds yet? Because that is also possible. But you're right now sitting here either as a man or a woman, that's a fact. But the truth of your existence is, today you and me are sitting here because a man and woman came together. Now that you're sitting here as a woman does not mean that your father has made no contribution for you. Does he exist within you or not? Now that you're sitting here as a man does not mean your mother has made no contribution for you. Does she exist within you or not? So the fact is you're either a man or a woman. The truth is you're both. If you recognize this truth and nurture this truth within you, that both masculine and feminine within you is on an even keel, you become a balanced human being. If you just nurture the masculine, the crassness of machismo will find expression. If you nurture just the feminine, excessive sense of decorativeness and unreasonable levels of emotive realities will happen. But life will not happen without both these dimensions. The question is about keeping them in balance. In yoga, the symbolism always is about showing the Adiyogi or the Shiva always as half man and half woman. One half of him is full-fledged man, another half of him is very much a female body. The idea is to remind everyone that this is the nature of your existence. Just because you have acquired a male body does not mean the feminine in you has to be killed. Just because you have acquired a female body does not mean the masculine in you has to be shunned. So, one basic form of yoga is called Hatha. You've definitely heard of Hatha yoga. Hatha means… Ha means sun, Tha means moon. So bringing a balance between the solar and the lunar dimensions of our existence. When I say the solar and lunar dimensions, our existence here, our physical existence here is a consequence of the nature of the solar system in which we exist. In a way, solar system is functioning like a potter's wheel to churn out this kind of humanity. Let's say, for example, let's say the planet Earth spins a little faster or goes around the sun a little faster. Instead of taking 365 days, it did it in 180 days, which is what you're expecting these days. The very shape of life on this planet would change dramatically. Today, there is a theory called constructional theory, which is giving a mathematical explanation as to why life on this planet is shaped the way it is shaped. How the geometry of all physical existence, particularly the life on this planet, and how the geometry of the solar system and how the geometry of the larger universe are connected, and they cannot be any other way right now, unless some dramatic change happens in the way the solar system functions. These questions are not of today. Over 15,000 years ago, these questions were asked. Can I tell you a story about a very a woman of our culture? When Adiyogi was seen either in absolute stillness or in ecstatic expression of dance, people saw that he was experiencing something that they have no clue about. So they pursued him, a few of them. Slowly many gave up, 7 of them hung on. And these 7 people today are referred to as the Saptarishis, who are his first disciples. I will cut through the story because it's a very long story. And somehow they trapped him to share what he knows. So he went into an elaborate scientific exposition. As this was happening, along the way, things happened in his life, and there was Parvati. Parvati looked at this teaching happening, and she said, "I also want to know this." He said, "You don't bother about all this, come sit in my lap." She said, "No, that's not what I'm looking for." She thought, he's playing the machismo, come sit in my lap, don't worry about all those things. Then he said, "No, just come, sit here." Then with hesitation she came and sat. Then he pulled her in, pulled her in, pulled her in. Then she became one half of him, knowing everything that he knows by experience, but not by knowledge. Then she experienced what he experienced. She was also in an ecstatic state, but she continued to listen to what he was teaching, these 7 people. And he talked about 112 ways in which a human being can attain to his highest possibility. 112 ways. In acknowledgement of this, we are building a face of Adiyogi which is 112 feet tall. In February, it'll be unveiled and offered to the world. It's going to be the largest face on the planet. When he said 112 ways and there are no more, then Parvati, being a woman, she likes variety. She says, why not more? He said, no more. There are only 112 ways. He kind of was dismissive. There are no more ways. So she felt insulted and she said, I will find more ways. He said, fine. She went away for many years, performing very severe austerities. Then she came back. He was still expounding these sciences to these 7 disciples. So she came and sat one step below him. This is the language between them. She doesn't want those guys to know that she has failed. She is his wife, she can come and sit next to him, but she comes and settles down one step below him to indicate she has failed. Now same question comes up in the minds of the 7 people. When he says 112 ways and the dimensions of intelligence that a human being can explore within themselves, they say, why can't we evolve to a better place where all this process can become easier? Today, modern science and modern generations are asking similar questions. Why can't we have a bigger brain? What today's medical sciences are saying is, over 20% of your energy, when you're sitting here in a resting place, 20% of your energy or more is consumed by the brain. It's such a small part. This much of your body right now is consuming 20% of the energy. Remaining 80% is running such a large part of your physiology. That's how energy consuming your head is. So, modern medicine and modern neurologists are saying that if you increase the size of the brain, you will not have the energy to manage it. Another way of doing things is to increase the size of the neurons or pack more neurons. If you pack more neurons, you may have more intelligence, but you will have no clarity. You will have too much static going. You will see this in some children. They are born with enormous intelligence, but too much static. Unless you slowly… Actually, what you're doing by doing certain things is to kill a certain number of neurons in the brain so that it becomes more clear. If you increase the size of the neuron, the energy will not be substantial. You will not have the energy to fire it. If you increase the number of neurons, you will not have the clarity. So they're saying in the very nature of things, you cannot increase the size of the human brain. This Adiyogi said 15,000 years ago. He said, unless some dramatic change happens in the solar system, you cannot physiologically evolve any further than the way you are right now. But you can go through a conscious evolution. You can evolve beyond the identifications of your body. This was the fundamental thing which came up in a debate between Parvati and these 7 people. They were looking at everything logically. She had a huge experience, but she had no idea what it is. They knew everything about it, but they did not have an experience. This is usually the dichotomy between masculine and feminine. So Adiyogi said, he included her and showed that he himself can become half man, half woman, and that's the only way you can know it and still experience it. Otherwise, you will know it intellectually, but you cannot experience it. Or you can experience it, but you cannot know it. So to bring this balance between masculine and feminine is the true empowerment of humanity. This understanding or this misunderstanding of splitting humanity, human species into two halves and thinking they are two separate species. Today the language in the world has become as if men and women are two separate species. This is going to be very disastrous for everybody, not for any one person or not for any one segment. For all, it is going to be disastrous if we start treating men and women as two separate species. We need to understand this is one species. It is just that to fulfill the process of life, there are many levels of activity which needs to happen successfully. There is a survival process. Today's survival process may mean going to the office, but that was not the case till recently. Survival process meant hunting, survival process meant agriculture, survival process meant war. When this was the case, masculine was most important. A man was most important for the survival process. But survival process by itself is meaningless, then you don't know what you're surviving for. So in many ways, a woman is like the flower of human species. There is a root, there is a stem, and there is a flower. A root is most important, without a root there is no plant. But if it doesn't flower, okay. A root is most important, but if a root doesn't flower, it'll feel frustrated. The fulfillment of life will not happen. If feminine has to find a place, the right place in the world, we need to create a balanced society where the finer aspects of life are as important as survival. If in our education systems, music, art, aesthetics become as important as science, mathematics and technology, only then feminine will find expression in a society. Right now, we are moving towards a place where economics is the thing. Wherever you go today, conversation is no more about the weather as it used to be when the English were out here. It's all about economics, everybody is talking about the economy. Economy is over-glorification of survival process. Yes? This survival process over-glorified. Too much significance to survival means feminine will die. Well, women may find their way, but the only way, today as I see, the only way a woman could be successful is she has to act like a man. This will be the worst thing for the feminine. The feminine has to flourish if our lives have to remain beautiful. We must understand what is useful and what is beautiful is equally important. If we start thinking of life as utilitarian, what is useful and not useful? The flower is not useful, we have to get rid of all the flowers. They are no use, we can grow vegetables. Yes, you can grow cauliflower, of course. I heard this happen in our Raj Bhavan, in the Rashtrapati Bhavan some time ago, that all the flower gardens were pulled out and vegetable gardens were laid out because someone thought these flowers are useless. Yes, flowers are useless. But if there is no aesthetic and beauty to our life, life will become useless. That's a big problem. Everything works, but nothing works. So it's important to nurture the feminine in any given society. I feel Western societies have lost the feminine in a huge way. Their idea of a feminine is a Barbie doll. There is no profoundness to the feminine. There is no a deep-rooted beauty in that. It's just become frivolousness is being recognized as feminine. Anything that is fanciful is recognized as feminine. Profound is not recognized as feminine. It's very important that as we had recognized in the past, we must understand, I don't like to dwell upon the past glories, because what matters is today and tomorrow for us. But there is something to pick on our past, because this was one culture which recognized feminine as important as masculine, if not more. It is only because of continuous invasions. When invaders came, the first thing that they laid their hands upon was your wife and your daughter. So, slowly we buried them inside for safety. What was done for safety after some time became a standard practice. Now those times are gone. Now it is time for us to look at it, rather than imitating the West in just making women as masculine as we can make them. It is very important that we bring a culture where there is a balance between the masculine and feminine. You being a man or woman is irrelevant, that's a different aspect. But having masculine and feminine in equal proportions in the society is of great significance and very, very important if we want to live a balanced life. Today we see in the world, particularly in the West, beginning to happen in our societies, big time now, is there is a huge sense of depression. A root or a plant that cannot flower naturally will become depressed. Masculine which doesn't find some kind of expression in the feminine will become depressive. A totally masculine mind will become dark and morbid, depressive mind. This is what you see. It started from Europe big time. Nobody can suffer like Europeans, I have to say this. In terms of economic well-being, Europe has the longest history of material well-being, continuous. But the level of depression, the level of human suffering, you can see this in the art, in the music, in the literature. If you read Dostoevsky or somebody like this, you understand what is the depth of suffering. An Indian man can never suffer like this. Yes, it takes a certain level of extermination of the feminine in your mind to suffer like this. If the feminine is on in you, it will find a way to make something beautiful out of little things. But if you have exterminated the feminine from your mind, everything is perfect, but nothing works. This culture of wanting to be efficient, wanting to be competitive, wanting to be better than somebody all the time, makes a society more and more masculine. As it makes it more and more masculine, you will see economic prosperity will happen, but human beings will be only tools to the economic process. And economic process should have been the tool for human well-being. Instead of that, human beings will become the tools for economic process. The economic engine drives on the fuel of humanity. Today our education systems are structured like this. Our children are the fuel for the economic engine. Our children are not human beings. Our children are cogs who are supposed to fit in to some machine somewhere. Where in India, this is of deep concern. I came to know in the month of January this year that over 18,000 children committed suicide in our country. Children are committing suicide means obviously we're doing something very wrong. Yes or no? When children, fresh life, which should be exuberant and bursting with joy, if that is wanting to end their life, obviously we're doing something very fundamentally wrong with life, isn't it? Over 7,000 of these children were less than 12 years of age. And one of the main reasons is, in India, passing mark is 98. It's just brutal. It's absolutely brutal that passing mark is 98. And if you get 98, these mad parents will ask the child, where is the other 2%? As if he stole it. This is masculinization of a society. We're becoming super masculine, exterminating the feminine from the systems. It's very, very important as parents, many of you young ladies, you must demand from your schools, there must be as much art, music, theatre, aesthetics as there is science, mathematics, technology, whatever else. It is not necessary everybody should be assisting the economic process. And we know Mother Earth is not ready to participate in our economic process after a few years. Yes? She is not ready. So it is time to turn this around, as in many ways in the world, everywhere in the world, economy is going to be the main factor in people's lives. It's very important that the women of the world participate in this process to create a gentler economy. An economy which is not brutal. When I say economy that is not brutal, today our economic activity is causing more damage to life on this planet than a war, isn't it? Yes or no? Our economic activity is causing much more damage to the planet and to the life on this planet than war. War is not so damaging, economic activity is that damaging. This is because of excessive masculine way of doing things. It is time to soften this. It is very important in business leadership, in the boardrooms of this nation and in the world. There should be women who are feminine, not women who have crossed over, who are trying to act more masculine than men. Not those women who genuinely have something feminine alive in them. And also men who are not ashamed of being feminine when they need to be. This balance has to be brought forth in a society. It is only in this balance there is empowerment. If we believe that making one superior to the other is empowerment, we are very mistaken and we'll pay a huge price for that. Making masculine superior or making feminine superior is not going to bring well-being to our lives. In bringing that sense of being equal within this. But if this has to happen, what is most needed is, our identity has to rise beyond our physical structure. Constantly thinking who is a man, who is a woman all the time, what it means is, we're getting identified with reproductive organs, that's what it means. It is not nice to be identified with body parts. If you must be identified with body parts, at least let's choose the brain. Yes? To be identified with reproductive organs is a very basic way to exist. I'm saying, on a day-to-day basis, where is the necessity to constantly think who is a man, who is a woman? There are only two places where it matters, bathrooms and bedrooms. Nowhere else it should matter. Whether somebody is a man or a woman, what does it matter to you? Yes? Whether somebody is a man or a woman, what body parts they carry, what is your business, I'm asking. It should not be your business. If you make too much of your business this, then you reduce the society into a very crass way of doing things. Then judgments are inevitable, then discrimination is inevitable. It's very important that we raise the society to an identity beyond physical structures of who we are. When we say a spiritual process, in essence, this is what it means. Spiritual process means, in your experience, your life has moved to a dimension which is beyond your physical structure. Your experience of life in some way has transcended the physicality of who you are. If your experience of life has gone beyond your physical nature, what does it matter whether you are a man or a woman? To perform certain basic duties, yes, we need to be a man or a woman. For the rest of our life, it is not necessary that we have to carry this gender identity every moment of our life. Because there has been a certain amount of exploitation in the past and also maybe continuing now, we are trying to overplay this gender identity, which will not lead to the well-being of the woman. It will not. It is very important that we create a society where as long as you're doing what is required to be done, I don't care whether you're a man or a woman. Yes? If we are too concerned about who is who, once division happens, judgment cannot be avoided. You must understand this. Once you divide this between this and that, how can you not help… You cannot help judging whether this is superior or this is superior. Inevitably you will come to that. Different people will draw different conclusions and bias and divides will happen. What should function as one, unfortunately, at least if you don't function as one with all life on this planet, at least as one species that must happen, isn't it? Looking up to something, looking down on something is the nature of a very basic intelligence. I must tell you this. Most of the things that people have in their mind, the prejudices and judgments, are taught to them in so many different ways. When my girl started traveling with me when she was 3.5 months of age alone, she would drive with me alone in the car. I would just hold her down on the passenger seat and just drive. And I drive in a certain way. So, constantly I'm traveling and we are in many homes. So I made one rule that nobody should teach her anything. No ABC, no 1, 2, 3, no Mary had a little lamb business. I don't want her to know whether Mary had a lamb or not. I said, nobody should teach her anything, just leave her alone. And she just started paying attention, nobody teaches her anything. By the time she was 18 months, she could speak 3 languages fluently because nobody taught her anything. And then she grew up like this and then whatever, at the age of 13, one day she came home from school, a little bit emotionally disturbed, and she said, "You're teaching everybody so many things, you're not telling me anything. I said, well, I'm not known to do anything unsolicited. Here you have come, let's see now. So I just told her this is all you have to know in life. Never look up to anything, never look down on anything. If you just get this much, you will see life just the way it is. If you do not look up to anything, you do not look down on anything, you will realize the significance of everything around you. Because you hold something as sacred, something as filthy, something is virtue, something is sin, something is good, something is bad, something is high, something is low, you're missing the entire point of life. This is all the teaching. Don't look up to anything, don't look down on anything. It's very simple, but most minds are so prejudiced, invariably they look up to something, they look down on something else. If you look up to something, invariably you look down on something else, isn't it? Can you stop it? No. But people have always told you, this is God, of course this is something else. If we bring our society to a balanced state of hatha, that means the sun and the moon in you play an equal role. When I say the sun and the moon, I will not go into the mathematic, the hall is largely full of ladies, so I don't want to become unpopular. There is a mathematic behind this, but the sun has a cycle of approximately 12.25 year cycle. Moon has a cycle of 28 days. Between these two cycles is the making of who we are. We know this much well, even if you cannot understand the cycles of the sun, you understand this, that if our mothers' bodies were not in sync with the cycles of the moon, we wouldn't be born, isn't it? So between the cycles of the sun and the moon, the masculine and the feminine functions. To find balance between these two is the most important aspect. This is what is called as Hatha Yoga, to work the geometry of the body in such a way that there is a balance between these two dimensions, that you get the best of the masculine and the best of the feminine within you, because there is balance. If there is any skewing of this or that, then suddenly you find it becomes a kind of an extreme expression. A skewed expression of masculinity will lead to one kind of ugliness, a skewed expression of feminine will lead to another type of ugliness. Bringing a balance between the two is the true empowerment of humanity. I'm sorry if it was expected that I was supposed to empower just the feminine. The feminine is truly empowered only when humanity is empowered with balance. The feminine will find expression only when we create a society where there is balance and stability. If society moves into strife, naturally man will dominate, isn't it? Yes or no? You may have 1,000 years of culture, but tomorrow morning, if there is strife on the street, man will dominate the place or not? Definitely he will. So it is in the interest of the feminine that there must be balance in the society, there must be stability in the society. Only then feminine and women will find full expression to all that they're capable of. Otherwise, very stifled women, largely very few societies in today's world can claim their women are finding full expression. No, they are desperately trying to be men because being like a man defines your success. We have created a playing field where only masculine can succeed. Today, women have access to many things that they could not dream of 50 years ago. This is not because of any great evolution within the human mind, this is simply because of technology. Technology has leveled everything. Technology has moved human activity from brawn to brain. Because of that, women are finding reasonable access to variety of things. If the muscle ruled, man would rule. Now, how much muscle you have, nobody cares, unless you are in some WW whatever nonsense. The success in the world is no more determined by how much muscle you carry, which was so just maybe 100 years ago or 200 years ago. How much muscle you carry definitely determined the success of who you are in the world. Today it doesn't matter, not because people have evolved, simply because technology has taken away the significance of the muscle. All you need is two thumbs to text. You don't need a whole body. So, we've come to a place where technology has created a physical space where men and women can participate in equal measure. This is the time to create a psychological space, a spiritual space where men and women can participate in equal measure so that masculine and feminine will have an equal play, so that human beings will flourish, human beings will know the peak of their life, human beings will know what it means to blossom within themselves, rather than from the time they're born till they go to their grave, they're only striving to survive a little better. This has become the way of the Western world. I just landed 48 hours ago from United States, and United States is right now kind of going through a certain process. Don't think this is a fight between masculine and feminine. It is masculine and super-masculine fight. So I was just telling them, you call yourself a free country, America is supposed to be the symbol of freedom in many ways. But I asked them, I was in Tennessee and it's a very strong religious state. I said, you guys claim to be strongly religious. Suppose Jesus came tomorrow. He won't come to Tennessee because he'll get crucified, that's different. Suppose he came somewhere. The Mormons claim he will come only in Missouri. Suppose he came and said, come follow me. If Jesus came and said, come follow me, none of you guys can follow because you got a housing loan for 35 years. You got an insurance premium that you have to pay. You bought a grave site for which you have to pay. You got student loan, car loan, all kinds of things. Jesus stands there and says, come follow me. Your bank is here. You're not going to go there because anyway you're a slave for next 35, 40 years. I'm saying even if the most significant dimension arrives in your life, you cannot change the direction of your life. This is not called a free world. This is an enslaved world. So when we glorify economics to the peak, this is what will happen. All of us will get enslaved in such a way, even if something tremendous comes our way, we cannot change the course of our life. Is it not important in human life that we keep at least a little bit of freedom, that something significant comes means we can change the course of our life? No? Is it not very important? It is very, very important, otherwise till we go to the grave, we will be only for paying bills. This is America. Till the last day they're paying bills. This happened. A man died and the son was reasonably doing well in his career. So he decided to give a grand funeral which cost him $30,000. He bought a casket, the coffin, which is rosewood coffin which costs $25,000. And he had musicians for the occasion which cost him $12,000. He spent all this and he told the undertaker, I want the best for my dad. So all the bills were settled. But after a month, another $100 bill came. So he thought something must be extra and he paid that. Next month, another $100 bill came. He said, what is this? I paid everything and again you're sending $100 per month, what is that? So the undertaker said, because I rented a tuxedo for your father, every month you got to pay. So, if we overly focus on economics, right now in our country there is a need to accelerate the economic process, yes, but in our personal lives we must know where to go and where not to go. Our life should not get tangled up in just survival process. Being tangled up in survival process means we have lost our feminine. Masculine is still ruling everything. This is why survival looks like supreme. Survival is not supreme. Once you have come as a human being, survival is not going to fulfill you. If you came like any other creature, yes, stomach full, life settled. But once you come as a human being, survival is not supreme. Survival is just only one aspect of our life. If we make survival supreme, that is when masculine becomes dominant, feminine will shrink. It's important that spiritual process, aesthetics, beauty, everything is as important as utility, economics, survival, as important. This must come into our education systems, this must come into our social milieu, this must essentially come into our media. She thinks it's not possible. So, in only making this happen, empowerment of the feminine can happen, because you must understand what you call as feminine is… what you call as a flower is a fragile expression of a sturdier plant. But without the flower, the plant would mean nothing. So what we call as feminine is a more fragile expression of who we are, but without it, we would be nothing. So it's important that we allow this life to flower. If this life has to flower, the necessary circumstance and atmosphere has to be created. If you have questions, any kind, please.
Thank you, SadhGuru, for your incisive words and captivating anecdotes. The floor is now open for questions.
If you had told me the cow is blue, I wouldn't have come dressed blue, huh?
Can I? Namaskar, I'm Saloni Mehta. Like you said, we should not look up to anybody. But we look up to you, that's why we are here.
Then you missed the entire point.
I mean, I need a little clarity in this.
When I said this to my 13-year-old girl at that time, when I said you do not look up to anybody, she glanced at me, what about you, kind of
That's what I'm saying.
thing. I said, not even me. Because the value of who I am, you will only know and cherish it, really value it, only if you look at me just the way I am. If you look up to me, you will make me like somebody that you already know. You will make me like somebody that you already know. Maybe you will make me God, then you will nail me to your wall. Then you miss the entire point. If you see me just as I am, you will realize the immense value of what it is. If you look up to me, you will want to place me on a pedestal, or you would want me to go to heaven so that you can live peacefully. When you start looking up, slowly up means up, isn't it? So don't look up to me, I'm still alive. When I'm gone, you can look up, but I won't be there in the cloud. I'm not one of those who hangs around in the clouds.
Sadhguru, being a woman, one of the…
It's not working, the microphone.
Being a woman, one of the major responsibilities we face is being a good homemaker. Women also work these days. So what is the best way to juggle and make sure the house becomes a home, and what are the qualities or sanskars which are very essential that we imbibe in our children today?
You must open a chat group on WhatsApp, Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, just for your family. Today there is no other way to make a home. You and your children, you and your husband are on the same chat group means there is a home. Otherwise, they'll be looking at you and chatting with somebody. So it's very important, if you have children, if they have not already grown to a point where they're on a different chat group already, if they're still young, one of the most important things that you need to do is, this may be a little more challenging in India than elsewhere, but it's very much possible. It's very important that you expose your children to nature. Nature need not necessarily mean you have to go to some tiger reserve. You can just walk somewhere. On a Sunday, instead of sitting in front of the television, or instead of being on this or that, which are variety of online caricatures, if you take your children out to experience something which is life. See, a child does not listen to what you say, I want you to understand this. They attach no significance to anything that you say. Parents are always surprised and they're breaking their heads, but they're absorbing everything that's happening around them. They're not listening to your talk, they're not interested in your talk, because anyway it doesn't make much sense. You know, when your parents were talking, these things did not make any sense to you, but how do you expect it'll make sense to your children? But they're absorbing life. If you expose them to life other than human societies, they will absorb life in an unprejudiced way. They will not… coming back to this subject if we have to, they will not discriminate between what is male and female, what is masculine, feminine. They… in a more fundamental level of intelligence, you grasp, for life to happen, every aspect is needed. It is only in the logical mind that you can eliminate one and highlight the other. But in reality, everything is happening as one, isn't it? If your children has to grow up in a balanced way, this is something you must invest in. That you, along with them, not trying to teach them ecological lessons, not trying to give this and that, just being in nature is a great lesson. I know this culture has not come up in India for a variety of reasons, but you can bring it back, we're trying to bring it back in many different ways. Just going out, you must see, we do this both in United States and here in our… We take children and camp in the jungle, they think. We walk them through the jungle, and when sundown happens, we camp. They can hear all the sounds of the jungle. They think they are in the wild. but actually they are in a fenced area. But they don't know that. They're experiencing this as real jungle because they can hear the elephants, they can hear all the other sounds. How children mature in a matter of 3 to 4 days is unbelievable, you know. The level of maturity that comes into them, especially city children who come there, who always lived in apartments and with a certain sense of unreality in their mind, they mature so fast. In a matter of few days, you can see this change. In United States, because our center is very large, it's over 1,400 acres, so we have enough space to camp in many places which are really wild, but they have shot up everything that was wild. There's really no wildlife except a little bit of mountain lions which are not really of much danger. But here it's tiger country, so we don't want to camp in the jungle, but we camp somewhere where children believe they are in the jungle. But just being there, absorbing all the aspects of nature, children will mature in a fantastic way. Your life, it is… just because you have a child, it doesn't mean you have to create a human being. There is no such thing, okay? That is done by the creation, not by you. It's a privilege, it's happening through you, but you can't do it. Yes, can you create a life? No, it's happening through you, that's all. Such a privilege, most people go through it as enormous stress. Here and there they smile, looking at their children, rest of the time only stress.
SadhGuru,
One second, we'll come to you. Anyway, the human species is not in danger. If you feel you're not ready for something like that, there is no compulsion that every one of you must deliver a child. Unless you believe, unless you are clear that you are going to produce a child which is at least a couple of notches better than you. Yes, it's very important that when we produce a next generation, in some way they must be better than us, isn't it? If we are going to produce a generation which is less than us, this is crime against humanity. Yes, it is. So if you're not so clear about it, human species is not in danger, that we have to encourage everybody, please have children. I'm trying to institute an award for all those young women who are capable, physiologically capable of having a child, but they chose not to have a child. I want to institute an award because there is no better service to humanity. Because right now we are 7.3 billion people. At the beginning of 20th century, we were only 1.6 billion people. In 100 years, we are 4 times up, 7.6 billion. The United Nations makes a prediction that by 2050, we will be 9.6 billion people. By 2075, we are supposed to be 12 billion people. At this rate, it doesn't matter how much wealth we have, what we have, our children and their children cannot live well on this planet. Yes or no? So the greatest thing that we can do is plan to reduce the human population in the next 50 years rather than increase the population, and as if it's some kind of a prediction. It's all right to say tomorrow is going to be raining, tomorrow is going to be sunny. You can't say tomorrow we are going to be 10 billion people. This is stupid. Yes or no? We can decide by 2050, instead of being 9.6 billion people, we will make it 5 billion people. You don't have to kill anybody, you just have to slow down the reproduction. Yes? I think this is the most important responsibility. So a home need not necessarily mean bursting with children. That was our image when we were agricultural societies, when there was lot of land to be tamed, we wanted 10 sons. They used to bless. 100 sons you must have. You know, Dhritarashtra had 100 sons and what a mess. They used to bless like this, may you have 100 sons. Because we were agricultural families and we had to tame the land. More sons you had, more labor you had, more prosperity and well-being. There is no land to be tamed. Nothing left to be tamed. Everything is gone too tame, we got to get the wildlife back. Yes, we got to get the wildlife back. They're saying from 1972 to 2012, 54% of the wildlife has gone dead. How's that? So right now, there is no… human species is not an endangered species, just for your information. When I look at the fertility clinics all over Chennai, I wonder whose idea is this? This problem is a crippling aspect of the feminine. To feel… people have brought this into the society, if you want to feel like a woman, you must have a child. This is rubbish, this is social nonsense. You don't have to have a child to feel like a woman. And anyway, you should not feel like a woman if you're not a woman. If you are a woman, anyway you will feel like a woman. You should not feel like a woman if you're not one. Please.
Yeah, Sadhguru, I wanted to ask you one thing. I'm writing a book on Shiva and some things are hazy for me. What is the difference between Rudra and Shiva? And what is that one factor that makes Rudra and Shiva one?
Because this is essentially about the feminine today, let me talk to you only this context, but don't write a book based on what I say just now because it's only an incomplete aspect. What we refer to as Shiva is… Shiva means that which is not. That means unmanifest. 99% of the cosmos is unmanifest. But today, modern physicists are saying this unmanifest dimension of the existence is tremendously powerful. They don't know what it is because they're not able to measure in any sense as to what it is, what is its nature, because it's not physical in nature. It is from this context that today modern physicists are saying, we not only do not know, we shall not know. They're openly saying this. Because all instruments of measurement, including your sense organs of your visual apparatus, your hearing, your smell, your sense, your taste and your touch is all about the physical nature. If something is beyond the physical, there is no way for you to perceive what it is. So from this context, they're saying, largely it's unmanifest, it is dark, and we don't know what it is, so we're calling it dark energy. Here in this culture, in the yogic culture, we always refer to this as kala. There are two aspects. In India, in this culture, we don't have two separate words for time and space. Time is also kala, space is also kala. Kala means darkness, darkness means space. So you must understand this. In your experience of life right now, because of the nature of the visual apparatus you have, you can only see that which stops light. You can see this hand because it is stopping light. Something so vital as air, generally you cannot see it because it doesn't stop light, unless you happen to be in Delhi, of course. Here you can see the air. So anything that does not stop light is not in your perception, because for you to see, it has to stop and reflect light, only then you will see it. So what is considered space is dark because it doesn't stop light. Light may be going through, but you don't see it because light was not stopped by anything. Suppose you have seen this, suppose the old, even today, the way the cinema is projected, if you put your hand, suddenly here there is light, otherwise you're not seeing that light. It is going there and creating a full-fledged drama for you, but you don't see it. But if you put your hand, the light stops right here. So light cannot be seen or experienced by you unless it's stopped by something. So all that dimension that you cannot see is dark for you. So that dimension of space is referred to as kala, and time also is kala. Here we are seeing, within our experience, we see time is the basis of space. In the sense, only because there is time, point A and point B are possible. Generally, logical thinking would be, because there is a distance, there is time. No, because there is time, distance is possible, space is possible. So we don't have two words for this. Kala means time, kala means space. So this dimension of unmanifested existence is called Shiva. Shiva means that which is not. When that which is not is just there, if little bit of energy play happened, which we refer to as Shakti, suddenly he roared. When he roared, he took the form of an ellipsoid. Today there are computer-simulated images of what the Big Bang could have looked like. They're all in the form of ellipsoid like this. This is what we refer to as the linga or the first form. So we said that which was Shiva, that which was unmanifest, when it manifested, it came out in the form of a roar. A roar means a Rudra. A roarer is a Rudra. He roared for a period of time. So that phase is called as Rudra. When he settled down into many manifestations today that we refer to as creation. But just based on this short answer, don't write a book.
Sadhguru, my question is how to create reality?
How to?
Create reality.
Create? You said create?
Yes.
Oh, if you create something, it is not reality, isn't it? Reality means that which is already there. This is the problem with reality. We can create any number of lies, but we can't create reality. Reality is already there. If you're talking about, in terms of media, reality shows, they're calling it. You a Trump fan? So, reality means that which is already there. With that which is already there, the only thing you need to do is to perceive it. We're talking about creating reality because today we have come to a place socially where people are more expression than perception. I would say, especially for your children, you must teach them at least as much time as they spend in expression, that much time they must spend in perception. If you ask me, how much time is expression, 10 times that should be perception, then your expression will be profound. But at least that much time that you spend in expression, there must be perception. But today, 24-hour expression, this means it will make us very frivolous. Our our literature will become 140 characters. Yes. Anybody, please take the microphone.
Sadhguru, I just wanted to ask, there was a discussion once about this.
Like this. You know how
Is
Lady
it
Gaga…
okay?
Lady Gaga, how she holds it? Like that.
No, it's a very simple question. There is a debate about this sometimes. What came first, the male principle or the female principle? The Shafts feel it was the female principle. The chefs obviously feel it's the male. Which came first?
On a certain day, after many long years, on a certain day, Shankaran Pillai met up with his college friends. No, he's just a South Indian man. He met up with his college friends. They all went out for dinner. Then they started drinking a little bit, then they ordered a lot of food. Then they got into a debate. Which came first, chicken or the egg? They went into big debate, but Shankaran Pillai was just focused on his drink and his snack. He went on eating and drinking. Then they said, "Hey, what, are you not interested? Don't you want to know which came first, chicken or egg?" He looked up and said, "Whichever you ordered first will come first." Don't try to draw me into that one now.
Sadhguru, you have mentioned nature several times in your talk.
If you can hold the microphone like this, yes.
Yeah. You mentioned nature several times in your talk, and you also saying that scientists say that the insects, they should be living. And scientists also say this is the age of Anthropocene, that man is overpowering the ecosystems and destroying the planet Earth. And so what is your, what is your opinion of that, and what do you say, how should human beings live in harmony with nature? How can we do that? Is there any truth to what the scientists say? Should we believe them totally, partially? And just how can we live in harmony with nature? What is your advice?
I happened to be in an international ecological conference. Then I told them the only way that you can make a difference, you driving a Tesla is not going to change the world. Some satisfaction for you, but it's not going to change the world. This is a band-aid for cancer. If you really want to make a difference, the only thing is, you have to reduce the human footprint on the planet. Then they asked me, how do you reduce the human footprint? I said, you have to reduce the number of feet. There is no other way. Right now, we have disproportionately grown in our population to the rest of the life on this planet. We are trying to adjust to that. All that'll happen is, you're talking about curtailing human aspirations. It will never work, believe me. When I'm particularly in California region, I find these days anybody who's reasonably well-to-do must have a Tesla, because that's a statement. When you go to the office, you go in your Tesla, otherwise you're considered crass. But they have a 6-liter, 12-cylinder pickup truck or a SUV parked at home. They have a 12-cylinder Ferrari parked at home. which is well hidden. But when they go to the office, they will go in their Tesla. I'm saying you cannot contain human aspirations, but you can easily control human population. If you control human population, people can live whichever way they want and it'll not be a problem. You have made human populations explode simply because we took death into our hands to some extent. When we take death into our hands, should we not take life into our hands or birth into our hands? In 1947, the average life expectancy of an Indian was 28 years. Today it's around 64, 65, which is wonderful. The change has happened in the last 70 years. So when we are living longer, is it not important that we produce our children much later? Hello? I know today many families where 5 generations are alive at the same time. It's not good. I'm not saying old people should die. Young people should come later, isn't it? Maximum 3 generations, okay. 5 generations living right now, that means 2 people have become 30 people. Where is the space, I'm asking? We're thinking of exporting them to Mars, but that's a long time away. Men can go to Mars, where will the women go? It's not hospitable. So, it's very, very important. We are talking about ecology like it's some other subject. No, it is just senseless living, that's our only subject. Now technologies have evolved, so many things are possible. You ask people to curtail their aspirations, believe me, it's not going to happen. People will pretend on the surface, still do what they have to do. You cannot curtail human aspiration, but very easily you can control human populations. But there are all kinds of religions, religious people encouraging have more children because their market is that. Miserable population means more religion will work. Yes, because they will promise you somewhere else there is a better place to live, you know. They're talking about a better place elsewhere. See, we must understand this. Like never before, human intellect is firing like never before. More human beings can think for themselves today than ever before in the history of humanity. Once you start thinking, inevitably you have to think logically. Once you think logically, the problem is unless something is logically correct, you cannot swallow it. This is the nature of the human being of tomorrow. If you don't have the courage to reject certain things right now, believe me, your children will become like this. Even if God appears here and says something, if it doesn't make logical sense to them, they're going to reject it. Yes or no? So once this happens, heavens will collapse. Heavens are already crumbling in your minds. It will fully collapse in the next 25 to 30 years, believe me. After all, what is there in heaven? In Hindu heaven, food is very good. Nala himself cooks for you. If you are really a foodie, you must go to Hindu heaven. In another heaven, white-gowned ladies are floating around in the clouds. If you like that kind of ambience, you can go there. In another heaven, you will encounter virgin problems. If you like that, you can go there. But what is the qualification to go to heaven? This happened in Alabama. You know, you heard of Alabama? It's a very special state. It's a Sunday school, Sunday morning, the Sunday school teacher is going full on, full fire. The audience is not adults, they're tiny tots. That's where it starts. He was going full speed and then he asked in a bombastic way, "What do you have to do to go to heaven?" Little Mary stood up and said, "If I scrub the church floor every Sunday morning, I will go to heaven." Absolutely. Another little girl stood up and said, "If I share 50% of my pocket money with my less privileged friend, I will go to heaven." Correct. Another little boy stood up and said, "If I help those who are in need, I will go to heaven." Correct. Little Tommy in the back bench stood up and said, "You gotta die first." So, if you want to go to heaven, first thing is you got to die. If you die, whoever you may be, all right? Whoever you may be, however rich, however beautiful, whatever you think of yourself, we will either bury you or burn you or throw you to the birds, depending upon which culture you belong to. Because this body is something that we have borrowed from this planet, it's best to put it back. Yes, if you've not done anything eco-friendly in your life, believe me, you will do this one eco-friendly thing. If you feel you have not done anything useful in your life, believe me, this makes good manure. When people die around me, I always make sure they're buried under a tree. I see the next 2-3 months the tree is having a party. It just bursts out with joy with more leaves, more flowers, more everything. So, you don't have to worry whether you will be useful or not, you will be useful someday, the question is only now. So anyway, you left your body here and went to heaven. So you're in heaven but you don't have a body, now what are you going to do with good food and virgins, I'm asking. I'm saying if you ask 3 questions, all the heavens will collapse. Yes or no? If you don't dare to ask, your children will ask. When heavens collapse, the human longing to experience something more will not go away. This is the way we have dealt with this longing. Human being is always longing to experience something more needs to happen. You may not be able to articulate what that something more is, but something more needs to happen. In pursuit of this something more, many destructive things, many wacky things, many crazy things are being done. But the important thing is, you want to somehow have a larger slice of life. Yes or no? So, the way we have conducted the humanity till now is, don't worry, you're miserable here, but when you go there, it'll all be great. But if heavens collapse, what will human beings do? The longing to experience something more is still there. They will do crazier and crazier things. One thing that will happen is, we will move towards chemical solutions in a big way. I'm sure people in Delhi, you know that you are moving towards chemical solutions in a big way. I was in New York City with a very large group of people, and I asked them, what percentage of people in New York City do you believe can sit in the evening peacefully without even a glass of wine? I'm considering wine as the smallest dose. Many people need many more things, but without a glass of wine, you can sit peacefully by yourself. How many? They went into a debate and they came back and said, 5%. I was in London with a very prominent group of people. I asked them a similar question. What percentage of people in London could sit peacefully without even a glass of wine? They said, well below 1%. I think you're getting there too. See, I remember 35 years ago, in small towns in India, there would be 10, 20 people who would be recognized as people who drink. People used to say, oh, they're drunkards, we shouldn't give our girls to their family because they're drunkards. Today, if you don't serve drink, nobody will come for your wedding. Yes or no? In a matter of 25, 30 years, to be peaceful, we need chemical help. To be joyful, we need chemical help. To be ecstatic, for sure we need chemical help. But even to be healthful, we need chemical help. Pharmaceutical industry is outpacing the food industry, do you know this? Pharmaceutical industry is slightly over the food industry right now. Food industry is $7.6 trillion. Pharmaceutical industry is edging ahead of that. That means we need more medicine than food on this planet to stay healthy. One fundamental reason why individual human beings, societies and nations aspire for affluence is so that we have a choice of nourishment, and next thing is a choice of lifestyles. But countries which have an enormous choice of nourishment and lifestyles, for example, United States, 70% of the population is on prescription medication. The other 30%, of course, buying drugs off the street. This is simply because human longing to experience something more and heavens are collapsing. As you begin to think logically, heavens will collapse, but the longing to experience something more will not go. Unless we provide a logically correct, scientifically verifiable spiritual process where people find access to the source of their experience and they can create any experience that they wish within themselves, unless this possibility is unfolded in the next 2 decades. If we don't do this, believe me, in another 50 years' time, 90% of the humanity will be on some kind of chemical for their daily sustenance. When this happens, as I said earlier, one fundamental responsibility that we have is we produce a better generation than who we are. We will fail in this fundamental responsibility. If all of us are on chemicals, the generation that we produce next will be much less than us. If we want to avoid this, this is what we need to do. A logically correct, scientifically verifiable spiritual process need to become an express need in the society, in every society. This is what needs to happen, and if we are really concerned about our children living well, just nurturing only our children well is not going to help. We need to create a society which is healthy, isn't it? You can't just make your children well and not be bothered about the rest unless we create an ecosystem of well-being. If there is no ecosystem of well-being, our children living well in future is just an empty dream. Let's make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sadhguru, for leaving us with some food for thought. I'd now like to invite Anchal Sethi, Senior Vice Chairperson, YFLO, to give the vote of thanks.
A very good afternoon, everyone. Seldom does one get an opportunity to encounter an unfailing wit, thought-provoking wisdom, and an enchanting presence. Today has been such a day for all of us here to have Sadhguruji amidst us. Sadhguruji, you have made it a very special and a memorable event for us to remember. A guru is not someone who holds the torch, he is the torch. Sadhguruji, you are the torch for us. On behalf of YFLO, I extend our profound gratitude to Sadhguruji for taking out his valuable time today to address us. I hope we can gather all the pearls of wisdom shared by him and craft something worthy and beautiful. May I now request Ms. Shubhra Gupta ji, past President FLO, to present a token of appreciation and deep gratitude to Sadhguru. Thank you, Shubhraji. The ornate setting today of the stage, which has added a real charm to the discourse, is the artistic work of the talented artist, Mrs. Seema Kohli, and Rasika Kajaria, YFLO committee member and founder of the Art Gallery, Exhibit 320. I express my sincere gratitude to them. Our sincere thanks to the FLO Secretariat, sponsors of our trophy, Art Dinox. May I now request the YFLO committee to come up on stage for a quick photograph.
Everyone come this side. पीछे फेस नजर नहीं आ रहा थोड़ा मोबाइल